आपादमौलिपर्यन्तां गुरूणामाकृतिं स्मरति येन विघ्नप्रणश्यन्ति सदन्तिच्च मनोरथः लक्ष्मीं तनोतु नितरामितरानपेक्षमङ्गद्वयं निगमशाकिशिखाप्रवालं हैरम्बमम्बुरुहडम्बरचौर्यनिग्रहं विघ्नाद्रिभेदशतधारधुरन्धरन् सर्वेषां स्वागतं. Welcome to the Bhashya session for shlokas 99, 100 and 101. So here, so let us understand this whole science behind Naivedya. Naivedya is a very traditional way of preparing food for the sake of offering. Now, unlike many cultures have restrictions with respect to what should be offered as Naivedya. For example, in a certain point of time, only certain foods should be offered. Like if we take, for example, Ekadashi, Naivedya is done. At that point of time, usually poha is offered. No, most of the Naivedya items, no onion and garlic is used for preparation. Many things like this. So there are many restrictions as per cultures, different culture. Now, why so? Because the science behind this Naivedya is that it should be able to provide a relief to the person who consumes it later. That means the whole point is that it should aid energy transformations in the body. Like for example, let us take kapoor. We have the pachkarpura. When it is added, pachkarpura is able to help us breathe easily. It preserves the food without any kind of chemical changes. In the same way, it helps there is a whole process of energy transformation in the body, and we need to understand it, because with the food that we consume, it is broken down into small bits of nutrients. The most small particles like protein has to come down to peptides, and then glucose for sugar, amino acids, etc., etc. So it has to come down to the lowest particle, and only then it has to there is something called as, in the energy conversion, there is cellular respiration. The cell has to process it, and it stores energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate in the mitochondria. All this is through a process, and the whole collective process, that is there are many processes involved, like glycolysis, etc., etc. It is called as metabolism of the body. In this particular function and hormonal regulation, there are many things in this whole set of functions that has to Naivedya is prepared in such a way that at any point of time it should not become a hurdle to any of these processes. So it has to maintain that energy transfer, a stable internal environment, what is it called as? Homeostasis, it is called as. So one has to maintain that. So, and it enables the body to perform physical activities. Both these things have to be taken care of. Therefore, it is prepared in such a way and with such ingredients such that it helps the body to breathe or to expand. It de-stress the body physically. So first, the science behind Naivedya is that the food is accepted as the valid form of energy to us. And the biggest problem when we consume anywhere is microbial contamination, microbes, because we eat fermented food sometimes, etc., etc. But here, when the Naivedya is prepared in certain way and certain ingredients, then what happens? The microbial activity is reduced, and therefore it is able to aid us physically in the energy transformations. But apart from that, psychologically, what happens? Understanding that even after consuming food, I can get sick is a very difficult thing to keep in mind, because it is what sustains us. Food is what sustains us. Thinking that I may be eating something that can kill me is very difficult. Like, let's take for example mushrooms. There are poisonous mushrooms. There are something psychedelics they call it. Some it can poison us. Some of the mushrooms. Some of them may make us sick. So at that point of time, it is extremely important that there might be a fear or phobia that may get generated where we are afraid to eat something. So at that point of time, a certain sense of surrendering uh, to a superior or a higher consciousness, or saying that okay, this has been offered to you, now I feel that it has been cleansed in its aura and therefore I'm eating it. It helps us with psychologically clean or a peaceful state of mind. There we have talked about the nutritional significance, but apart from that, it is important to understand that when I'm stressed and I overeat, the release of adrenaline is able to digest that food also. When I'm de-stressed, even eating a small quantity of food can make me feel that now my stomach is full. So our brain activity, mental stability has a lot to do with the way we eat. It has a lot to do with the way we digest food. And from that digesting food, it has a lot to do with the way we convert those into different energies that is useful to the body. So, by offering the food that we eat to a higher consciousness, we are able to remove doubt from our mind that something that we are eating may turn out to be harmful for me. I'm not saying it will always work, because awareness always brings about that change. If I'm eating poison, I cannot say I'm offering it to God, therefore I'm eating it, and nothing will happen to me. That is not the case. When there is We cannot know the nature of all the foods. So when there is ambiguity, when there is doubt in mind, this method can be used to remove that doubt. That's all. And we've heard this Chandrayana Vrata many times in the shlokas, a few of the shlokas. So what is this? This shlok, it's not, it is a vrat, or it is a cycle. It is aimed at syncing our diet with the lunar cycle. So it has strict dietary regulations and spiritual practices. Like, for example, the vrat started on a Purnima day, the full moon day, and ends on the next Purnima day. And the food intake changes according to the lunar cycle, like that is increasing or decreasing the food from the Purnima till the next then Amavasya, the moon waxes, no. So like that we have to reduce our food, and Amavasya, it becomes almost nil, and then again it increases till the next Purnima, it is restored, like that. So there is a strict restrictions also. What should be eaten? Ghee must be eaten, rice, sesame seeds, moong, or some of the dals are prohibited. Moong is allowed, and there is something called as Havishya An. That is something that is offered to Havan. So those list of things are to be eaten, and the vrat expands a little more. That means one should sleep on ground, on the floor. And there is a very strict adherence to cleanliness, hygiene, celibacy, and a lot of chanting. So there are many different types of Chandrayana Vrat also. Pipalika, Madhya, etc., etc. There is Yati Chandrayan, Shishu Chandrayan, and all those things. That is taking four morsels of food in the morning, four in the evening, and then there is, how do we say this? Um, Two times eating in a day, or one time in eating in a day, having only one meal a day, or having restricting it to two meals a day between a gap, etc., etc. This is basically a diet plan. So there are people who do this, and chanting becomes very important. Chanting, usually it is chanted for 40 beats, 11 times, like that. And chanting Gayatri mantra or any specific nakshatra devata, or if nobody, then nothing is there in mind, then uh, Somaya Namaha, that is to the moon himself, reminding us that we are attaching ourselves to the lunar cycles. So this is usually the constituents of the vrat. Now, this is conducted, or this has been taken up for the attainment of spiritual growth and self control. The parts of it with respect to diet and with respect to strict adherence to cleanliness, etc., etc., it brings about a change in health. That means upliftment in health. Therefore, it is considered a little sacred and etc., etc. Now, from that, when we say punya, we have to consider the overall positive benefits from all of this. That is the spiritual, mental, and physical benefits that we get all of this. So, this Chandrayana Vrata brings about a lot of positive impact. Now, the Naivedya, eating the Naivedya is equivalent to 100 Chandrayana Vrata. That is Chandrayana Vrata. When I'm starting from one Purnami to other Purnami, it takes for nothing but 28 days. So when I'm saying 100, it means 2,800 days. When I perform Chandrayana Vrata for 100 times, then it is 2,800 days. So what I get from that, I can get from eating Naivedya, like that. That is the interpretation. And there is, I think this might be the most controversial part of these three shlokas, where it is said that those offered to Rudra must not be consumed and it must be thrown in the well. Now, why so? Let us understand that certain food, when it is given to, it is not just actually Rudra, it is any to, it is given to us any lesser gods, lesser energies. So inviting any other energy. Now specifically, let us understand, when we are associating Hari with the life forms, any other form would become something else. Even if that person says some other life form, it might not, it might be a different life form. Like when we say there are Martians, Martians are not going to be equal to terrestrials, primarily because we are living in a certain condition that is only suitable to us. They are living in a certain condition that is only suitable to us. So what works for them will not work for us. So keeping that in mind, the other energy forms that we are talking about. So if you're talking about Rudra, Rudra is a little extreme and a little um, uh, release of energy. Rudra, whatever we want to say, is nothing but the end as we see it. That is the destructive forces or the energy. Now, when we are agreeing that it is a destructive force, inviting such force, consuming the food that is that has invited such a force into the body, can lead to extreme changes in the body conditions, and therefore it may affect the energy transformations within our body. That is the only reason why it is suggested. Actually, there are Puranas, many of the Puranas says that we should not consume the Naivedyas of Rudra. And actually, Rudra has a lot of Shiva, as we say it, as a different form, is a state of mind. Anything that is offered to Rudra, in the Puranas it is Rudra, is not brought to the home unless and until it has a specific reason. So if we are bringing, like, even if we are keeping a shivling at home, it should not be worshipped with flowers, it should be worshipped with water. It should not be worshipped with kumkum or the other haridra, haldi. It should be offered only vibhuti. So there are different ways of worshipping certain energies. Now, the association that we have, like for example, if I say if I have to worship with Vibhuti, that Vibhuti is not readily available to me. What we find in the this thing is different. It is burnt up ash of certain plants, but Rudra usually accepts ashes from crematoriums. So that Raudra, that extreme form of energy, should not be associated with, because it brings about changes in our life, in our daily life, which we may not be able to um, keep up with, or we may not be able to bear. That is the reason it is said that anything associated to such energy that is offered to lesser gods over here, probably for the sake of showing, because this is Vaishnava script, Vaishnavatva is going to be placed at the center of the theme. So anything to any other gods must not be accepted, primarily because we are treating Haritattva is equivalent to the life form, and therefore anything that we take up, any other form of energy that we take up, it might not help us in or ease our living or state of mind. So it might create problems rather than helping us. Therefore, it is not. It should not be consumed. That is the intention of it, not with respect to um, not with an intention to disrespect any other thought, but this has been said with the intention that the conservation and the transformation of energy might get affected adversely when we consume such food. That is all. So there are many when we talk about the food habits and all that, there is a researcher called Margaret Mead, so who researches food habits, culture, and etc. etc. So each culture has their own way of food culture. So now, when we talk about our culture, that is here we are talking about Vaishnava. So we are talking about that culture. So therefore, the food culture emphasizes more on Naivedya, Vishnu Naivedya. There may be another culture. There are many cultures where Rudra Naivedya might be accepted. So in this particular text, it is not accepted, and it says that it should be discarded, or it should be, and we do visarjana of it. That should not be thrown anywhere, because again, it is something that has been energized. So it should be thrown in the well. It should be, it is called as visarjana. It should be done, it should be put down like that. So this particular, whole thought of food and its consumption is brought about through this adhyaya of Naivedya. And there is a lot of thought with respect to nutritional science, like how the Naivedya should be prepared, when should it be consumed, like dietetics and etc. etc. All that has been considered, and certain uh, rules have been made. That's all. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः प्रतिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृतिस्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि।